Welcome back. Another week. Journal Star Sportswriters podcast here, as usual, with my guys, Adam Duvall, John Camosa. I'm sports editor Wes Hewitt, here to talk some hoops. We're going to go over some area bests, usual breakouts, small school, big school, some state ranks, looking ahead. Then we'll make some picks that I think it's going to include Lewiston again.
Correct.
I don't get any mid-afternoon text from Greg Bennett.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Greg. We love you. We're going to start with running down the area best. We'll start with the boys. Something interesting. Galesburg the other night, they jumped up in your they jump up or?
Yeah, they're up to 3 now.
3, yes.
They moved up a spot, and they actually jumped up in the state ranks too. So
there you go.
Up to number 8. As everyone knows, Kobe Bryant passed away the other day, and it was really cool how they paid tribute to him. They wore black T-shirts, and it had Legacy on the back in purple and gold, and then on the front it had, I believe, number 8, and on the back was his 24.
Right.
Really cool, and all the players on the bench wore those, for pregame, and then the players that were on the bench wore them while they were sitting there, and nothing better than packing the stadium for that and then getting a big win. So they beat Quincy in that game, and very impressive performance from Jalen McCants. We've obviously mentioned his name a few times. He had 25 points and 21 rebounds in that game. And
wow.
Just Galesburg, they're 21-3 on the season now. Just continue to press, night in and night out, and definitely a team to watch come March. So
we'll go through the small schools. Anybody there?
Yeah, one team that really kind of stood out over the weekend, and especially going into this week, is Tremont. Right. Kind of floated their way back into the ranks. Started in there early, and I got them back at number 5 now on the small school side. Very impressive performances from Titus Thompson and Landon Fletter. I watched them at Shirk Center over the weekend in the HOI or Heart of Illinois Conference, McLean County tournament. And they had a tough road there. They played DMAC in the semis, and that was a week after they lost to DMAC the first go around in that Route 9 rival. So they followed up with a big win and just came out lights out from a 3. They hit 10 threes. Fletter had 5 of them. Titus Thompson had 4. Kind of cruised their way into that title game, and then just a gritty game against El Paso Gridley kind of held them off at the buzzer there. And same thing, Landon Fletter had 5 threes, so he had a combined 10 for those 2 games. But every time they needed a shot, he hit the 3. So they were down 3, hit the 3, went up 3 with his 3, and it was like down the stretch. It was just incredible. And he's hitting very well-contested shots too. So
Tremont made a little history with that win.
Yeah,
right?
That was the first time in school history that they reached it and won the title too. So Troy Smith doing a really great job with that team, and they did take a tough loss at home to Fieldcrest yesterday, but still 17-6 and 6-2 in the conference on the year. So.
All right, yeah, they're the Smalls. Roanoke still number 1, and then Notre Dame, of course. Great story today, John, on the brothers.
Yep,
3 sets of brothers. They're number 1, held off Peoria High. Head over to the girls' side. What's shaking among our area best?
Well, the girls, the small, there was a bit of a shakeup. Brimfield lost twice last week. They lost to Lewistown, and then they lost to Havana. Speaking of Havana, that Havana sectional is absolutely loaded. It will have Lewistown. It will have Illini Bluffs. It will have Princeville. It will also have Havana. It will also have Brimfield.
Wow.
Gosh. Look at 3 of the top 5 teams in the state.
Absolutely. So, Knoxville's up to number 2. Lewistown versus Knoxville tomorrow night. That should be a good game. Illini West remains there at 4. They had a real nice win over Quincy Notre Dame, which is a top 5 2A team. But then they lost to Lewistown as well. And Principal's at 5. On the large side, it remains the top 4 remains the same. Morton, Peoria High, Richwoods, Washington. Metamora is in there this week. They beat Dunlap last night by 12. Freshman Katie Ramage had 17 points. She was one of 3 girls in double figures. They are progressing, but they have a huge test on Saturday. Morton comes to town, who has won, 36 in a row, which is now 15th all time in state history for wins in a row. The next, if if they win 2 more, they'll tie the 2005 Richwoods team.
Oh, wow.
They went 38-0 and won the state that year. So
Richwoods is the state record?
They are not the state
no,
record.
What's this?
I think it's 65.
Gosh.
Richwoods
Okay.
is number 2, 63 when they had Nora Lewis and Charlotte Lewis
Wow.
and back in the late 70s.
So again, what we said last week about this is heady stuff that Morton is doing, and they're worth going out. I mean, I saw some highlights of the game the other day with the Pink game. That was nice crowd there.
Yeah,
last night. Yes.
Yep, against Washington.
Oh,
And they beat a really good 18-win Washington team by 21 points.
Right.
Lindsay Dullard's back from her concussion. She missed 4 games. Frakes is coming off the bench again, Raquel Frakes. However, Maddie Becker is lost for the season. Last year in the sectional semi, she tore her ACL and her meniscus in her left knee. Last week, she tore her ACL and her lateral meniscus in her right knee. So our best wishes go out to Maddie in a speedy recovery.
Oh, you already touched on some breakout with Katie Ramage and Mr. Something and Princeville up to its highest rank ever, right?
Highest ranking in program history. Yeah, their number they didn't debut. They moved up to number 5 in
Right.
the 1A ranks. And John Gross, this is his 3rd program and 3rd top 5 ranking that he's
Wow.
led to they've won. Don't want to. 16 in a row. They play they play United tonight, which they beat the first round of the Lincoln Trail Conference Tournament. They won that on Saturday. They have a nice, not an easy path, but their last game, of the season is a week from tomorrow, hosting Knoxville. So that could be a potential 1A top 5 team versus a 2A top 5 team.
Right. All right. You mentioned Katie Ramage a little bit, Metamora. Speaking of Metamora, some breakout performances on the boys' side?
Yeah, they had a really nice showing. They play in that annual Round Ball Classic that they host over there. And they did reach the championship game. Unfortunately, they fell to Hyde Park. But they did have a very nice game against Granite City. They won 79-75 in that one, and Gabe Mason had 20 points and 17 rebounds in that. So Gabe Mason has just continued to impress. Each game, I honestly can't recall a game that he's been or that he hasn't been in double figures. So he's definitely their glue guy, and another guy outside of him that's really stepped up in his first year is Ethan Kaiser. He's a freshman, and Kaiser had 18 points yesterday in a big win over Canton. So Metamora has improved to 14-7 and 6-2 on the conference, and they're starting to click a little bit now. So kind of getting it back, and they did move back into the ranks for me. So.
All right. Speaking of ranks, we got state ranks. Doesn't seem to be a ton of movement at this point in the year. Any teams you guys want to point out? Anything happening?
Peoria High actually moved down 2 spots despite
interesting.
not
Okay.
losing. So yeah, Morton's 1, Richwoods is 4, Peoria High is 7. Washington received votes. In 2A, Knoxville remains second ranked. Illini West made the debut at 10. Eureka picked up some votes. They won the HOI McLean County tournament. They've won double digits, I think 11, 12 in a row. 13 in a row, 13 in a row. And then, like I said, in 1A, Princeville is 5, and Lewistown is back at number 1.
How about over on the boys' side there, John?
Boys' side, 3A, Notre Dame moves up a spot to 4, and they got those 3 really solid teams at the top that it's kind of hard to, even as well as they're playing at 19-1, kind of hard to surpass those. You got Niles, Notre Dame, Bogan, teams like that have continued to win, play a very tough schedule. So Notre Dame's right there. If one of those 2 teams goes on a losing streak, which I don't see any point happening, but you never know. They could shoot their way up. But for right now, they sit at 4. Galesburg moves up a spot to number 8. And then we'll move on to 2A. Nobody ranked inside the top 10, but we do have Tremont now receiving votes as well as Kewanee. Kewanee won that game against Farmington that we broke down last week.
I picked the Farmers.
To get in there, I picked them as well. So In 1A, it kind of stays the same a little bit. Roanoke Benson at 4. Quest moved down 2 spots to number 9 after falling to Wethersfield.
Right.
And Elmwood was in there receiving a vote. So
Wethersfield was number 10, weren't they?
yeah, in Wethersfield, number 10.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Haven't really got a chance to talk about them much, but Wethersfield, All-Stater Colton Quagliano had a triple-double in that game. And outside of him, they think they had 5 other guys in double figures. So Wethersfield's definitely one of those teams to kind of watch for.
Another one of those multi-sport standouts.
Quarterback, baseball,
right.
yeah.
All right, we're gonna look ahead to the weekend here a little bit. We'll stay here on the boys' side. Speaking of Notre Dame, got a big game against Richwood. Is somebody we really haven't talked about on the podcast.
So
what's Will Smith have cooking over there?
Yeah, just like last week, we kind of talked about a look ahead at Notre Dame and Peoria High, and we mentioned that Notre Dame won that first meeting, and it was a blowout. Same thing happened to Richwoods in their first meeting in December. Notre Dame won 78-42. But you saw how Peoria High turned it around and battled them out to overtime. Kind of the same thing with Richwoods. I think this time coming around will be a lot closer than we expect because this one is on the road, and Richwoods usually puts on a fight over there.
Sure.
You got Willie Anderson over there. You got Khalil Danage, Isaiah Donnell, kind of those core guys that were there with Cortez Mosley last year. They're a streaky team, but they do have potential, and when they're on to light some teams up from beyond the arc there. So, like I said, I look for this one to kind of be close. Notre Dame going into that Big 12 game at 19-1, 4-1, and the Knights are 9-10 and 2-2 on the year. So they'll try to get back to 500 if they can pull out that one. That's Friday night at 7.
Okay. How about over on the girls' side?
A combined 50 wins in tomorrow's matchup between Knoxville and Lewistown. Lewistown's 24-1, Knoxville's 26-1. I won't be there. I will be at Richwoods, 22-5, hosting Peoria High, 19-3.
That can only be construed as a slap in the face to Greg Bennett.
No, never. I think he understands we're the Peoria Journal Star, so we do have to cover some Peoria teams.
And I presume that Galesburg paper might be at that Lewis and Knoxville game. Pretty big for them. We might be able to
absolutely
pick up their info.
But it's the same on the boys' side. All of the city schools play home and homes. And this one actually counts as the Big 12 conference game. Central beat Richwoods in that first meeting in December. And so the Knights, they're, on an 11-game winning streak, and they're looking to, revenge that loss.
You got to think that, yes, avenge would be correct.
Avenge.
You got to think, Michi and the girls over there, they got to be thinking a little bit like they beat Richwoods head-to-head, right? The first one? And they sort of been like a rung below them in the state ranks because obviously just different things taken into consideration. So you got to think there's a little bit of a chip on the shoulder of the Lions a little bit to get.
Yeah, absolutely. When I talked to Todd Hersey and I did a story on them being kind of unheralded and unappreciated, he openly admitted, he was like, "Yeah, they beat us and they should be ahead of us." And I've ranked them ahead. Peoria High's been number 2 in our power rankings all year. But I can see how some of the wins that Richwoods has had, especially at State Farm where they went 3-1 and they lost to Chicago Maris.
I think the Kenwood win was probably what got them
on the
map. They're a little pushed up.
That was a big win for them. And then in the Middle Illini on Saturday, I'll mention again Metamora and Morton. I wouldn't ever pick against Bob Becker, but
no. And that's the thing. I think it's hard because I think teams like the Metamora girls and the Washington girls have good teams, and Dunlap even. But they get on the court with Morton, and it just they make them look silly in certain ways. I mean, winning by 20, 30 points.
Right.
I mean, this Morton team is so much of a level above. I mean, I think the Washington and the Metamoras of the world, and certainly regional championship level, even maybe at competing with the Richwoods and the Peoria Highs at that next rung.
Metamora has 3 losses in the Middle Illini, and they're actually tied with Washington and Dunlap for second place in the Middle Illini. Metamora's 3 losses, 53-49 to Dunlap, and then they gave up 48 points in back-to-back games to Morton and Washington. So they hung with them, and that's a good, kind of the mark of a good Brianna Morrow team is their defense.
They had a pretty impressive win over Pekin recently, right?
Yes.
Metamora did?
Yeah.
Like 30 or 40, or what was it?
66-33.
Yeah. That's what I thought. All right, we'll go into our picks. Okay, guys, we'll stay over on the girls' side since we're talking Greg Bennett and the Bullets.
Lewistown over Knoxville.
Hold on, let me get that on the record. Lewistown.
Get that on the record, please.
Double stamped, checked. Joko, don't you dare.
Lewistown again for the third straight week. We're just going to keep it consistent. So
yeah, I don't want any bodily threats of bodily harm befalling us. Plus, I really don't know much about Knoxville other than their record and their win-loss and their schedule. I know how Lewistown plays, so I will not pick against them because I always have my guy Greg's back. Are we gonna pick the Peoria Richwoods while we're here?
Sure.
Why not?
Sure.
You want to stay neutral over there?
I'm going to stay neutral for
Mr.
now.
Switzerland?
Yep, I'm going to stay neutral.
I like. We'll go with Richwoods.
Wow, I was going to pick Peoria High. I just feel like it.
Yeah.
I feel like they have something to prove. All right, boys' side picks. Actually, got an interesting weekend.
Yeah.
East Peoria has a shootout.
East Peoria has a shootout.
There's another one, isn't there?
Peoria High has a
Peoria
shootout.
High has a shootout. That's right.
Yep. We'll see Manuel Morton in that Peoria High shootout.
Remember the days of the River City shootout?
Yes, I do.
On Martin Luther King Day.
Mid-Illini and
at Renaissance, right?
Mid-State 6.
Or they had one at Carver, and then
They had
one
it.
at
They
Renaissance,
had.
I remember watching Livingston over there. Had a couple of teams that came. They had
ICC
West
as
Aurora.
well.
Yeah.
ICC.
Yeah, that used to be that way, but then they changed it when some of the city schools or the Chicago schools didn't want to come anymore.
Yeah.
Then it became sort of a Mid-State 6 Mid-Illini crossover thing.
It's been like 14 years since they had that.
Oh, wow. I'm old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had Bill Cole and all those guys.
That's right.
And Brandon Wyckoff. And
Yeah, it always made for some interesting matchups.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Joker.
No, you're good. No, but like you said, an intriguing matchup that a lot of people in this area don't get to see unless you're traveling to other games, in the Chicago area. But you got Class 2A, number 5 Chicago Corliss,
Right.
Going to play against number 9 Class 1A Quest in the East Peoria shootout, and that's 5 p.m. Saturday. So it's a real big test for Quest to kind of see where they really match up with, a team a class ahead of them. And
Sure.
Dustin Brooks has really loaded that schedule with some tough teams, and they've even traveled, out of state to play some teams.
Right. They're not really hemmed in by having a conference, so it really opens up the...
It does. And it, like I said, kind of see what you're made of with a team like this, because you might see Corliss down at state. I'll stick with Corliss in this game, but I think it's going to be a close game. I think Quest will hang around for a while. I don't really see it being any more than 8 or 9 points if Corliss wins it, but I think Quest kind of matches them with their athleticism, intensity, and I just like how they kind of play a run-and-gun style. And when Quest is really hitting their threes, they can be dangerous and just about beat anyone. So I think it should be a good game, but I'll go with Corliss in that one.
Adam?
I'm going to go Corliss, but I think
Yeah.
this game's played in the high 60s, maybe even the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like John said, it's going to be run and gun. It'd be a fun game to see.
Yeah, that's interesting. Corliss is in that group of those small school Chicago teams that the Oars and Corlisses, and I think there's a couple more that are... Marshall, I think, is in the mix, too.
Yeah, I believe so.
Where you really don't know who's going to emerge from that, come down here to state, which paths they're going to take and whatnot, and you can almost throw their records out because they all play such tough schedules and such. So I'll go Corliss on that one as well.
You had a note about Quest, right? We talked about this before the podcast about Quest and Roanoke Benson.
Oh yeah, they won't meet until state.
Yeah, we get a round 3. Yeah.
I did that some homework for you. I'm not sure if it'll be the semi or the title game, but if they do end up getting around, because one of them goes in a different direction. Quest stays around here for the sectional, plays a lot of the Peoria Christians and whatnot around here, but Roanoke heads, I think, south.
South.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heads south, which is a little bit of a surprise. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see how they can match up against some teams that they really hadn't played this year.
And like you said before this podcast closes, so I can get my one tally.
Oh, boy.
If Roanoke and Peoria Christian both win tonight, they will play for the Tri-County Conference title on Friday night. So that'll be a big test for Roanoke. Thought I'd mention it.
Do you just want to say Holt Geltmaker or something? Just to
Go Ghosts.
go.
East
And we had
Peoria
East Peoria.
also-
We were going to talk about them, and we had them marked out.
They also play. They play Quest too,
They
so
do
maybe
play Quest.
maybe it's a trap game.
I tell you what, that Tri-County conference title game, that's a fun night. If you've ever been to Putnam County,
They do the
Granville,
free throw thing
Free
still?
throw, yeah, that gym is
Nice.
packed. It's hot. It's a great experience, great environment.
It should be a great game if it's assuming it's Peoria Christian against Roanoke.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Joe Mentis, who was the IVC coach for a while. I coached at Midland, and he said when he was coaching there, because he actually helps with Peoria Christian now, do stats.
Okay.
So we were talking, and he said when he's at Midland with Vervo and all those guys,
Yeah.
and the gym was always packed, even in the playing games. You always
Right.
had a big crowd, and we were going back and forth about the Fay brothers there at Putnam, and I can't remember ever being at a game that you couldn't feel the intensity in that place. It was
Yeah.
always packed, and they did actually change the lights out in there. It's a lot brighter now.
Oh,
than
is
used
it?
to be. It's
Good.
a lot, yeah. So
We're getting to that time of year where it's going to be little gyms full of
Little
people and
popcorn.
teams going home, and
I think tomorrow
popcorn.
we'll have a good crowd at Richwoods
Yeah.
for that game. That'll be a good one.
All right. Well, for all that stuff, these guys will be out this weekend. You can look for us at pjstar.com/preps, on Twitter with the hashtag PJS Preps. Oh God, I'm sorry. He's on Twitter at Adam Duvall and at JKOM991. But yeah, for Adam Duvall and my guy John Camosa, I'm Wes Hewitt saying bye.